Where do teachers make the most money? You might have been told that you can make mad bank in places like Dubai, Saudi Arabia, or even in extreme places like northern Canada and Alaska. While these places do pay top dollar for their teachers and are famous for sending teachers home with savings they can boast about to their friends, family, and teaching peers, these locations are still a mere fraction of the money that is made when you come to teach in China. That's right, the People's Republic of China. You may have previously heard of China as a place where young university grads with a degree in anything could just come on over for a year of teaching enough English to pay off a little student debt, fund a bit of travel, and provide themselves with great memories of partying and living it up in a brand new exotic culture. In the last decade, teaching salaries in China have skyrocketed, and the reasons for which I'm going to explain in this video. It's no secret that China is massive, both in size but even more so in population. With the growth in middle class as well as the super rich, demand for education grew beyond simply English training centers and summer camps. The main cause for this boom in teaching wealth was the rapid growth in private education. That's right, I'm talking kindergartens, all the way through high school. Not just international schools that enrolled mostly the children of foreign expats, but also bilingual schools that operated an integrated curriculum that required full-time English-speaking and Western-educated homeroom teachers. To talk about how Chinese salaries began to eclipse the lucrative contracts of Saudi Arabia, we need to go back to the early 2010s. If you were to go back in time 10 years, you would find a handful of highly sought-after jobs in major cities such as Shanghai, where the number of international schools could have been counted by hand, and the number of bilingual integrated schools were not much more than that. At this point, it wasn't so much the demand was large as much as it was the supply of teachers and people willing to come to China was on the rise. If you were looking for a teaching job at a high-paying school in a sought-after city like Shanghai, you were likely competing with qualified and experienced international teachers from around the world, as well as the English-teaching veterans eager to escape the ceiling and career stagnation of the after-school training center. If you were willing to forego first-tier cities like Beijing and Shanghai, you were likely to still find a decent job in any number of smaller cities or townships, paying you anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 a month, which at the time was more than enough for an adventurous educator. Something happened in the years since then. Without getting too economical or political in nature, we can sum it up to a few factors that destroyed the supply of teachers, while the demand from the increased amount of schools grew consistently over the course of the next decade. It's no secret that relations between the West and China have taken a downturn in recent years. I refuse to get political in this channel, but less and less Westerners viewed China as a destination that they would like to go to. The optimism and excitement about an arrived China that flourished throughout the world and the country in the lead up to the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games has been drying up for a long time. It also didn't help that the cost of rent in major cities had been increasing. One of the things that drew people to China instead of Japan or Korea was the low cost of living. Little did they know that the income of those who came and stayed would skyrocket past their expenses. In the last half-decade, the number of schools looking to hire full-time, qualified, or university-educated educators to come teach homeroom in big cities like Shanghai had more than doubled. The saying among expat teachers was that, "When I came here, the school interviewed me. A few years later, my new colleagues that joined the school described their hiring process as they interviewed the school. Not enough teachers and too many jobs meant fierce competition between those who had the cash and were willing to spend it to bring those teachers in. After all, those schools charge enormous fees for their students. So, an increase in teacher pay was an acceptable cost to keep the machine running. Fast forward to 2022, almost 3 years into the pandemic, with heavy quarantine requirements for entry into China, limiting international travel, and making visiting one's family and loved ones in their home country during a holiday next to but not impossible. You can imagine the expat flight that resulted in a further decimation of this once bountiful and endless supply of eager and enthusiastic educators. If you've watched the news in the last 6 months, you know that many cities, especially Shanghai, have experienced some of the most intense COVID restrictions and policies in the world. Quick note, I said intense, which doesn't indicate whether I support or oppose government policy. It is just simple fact that a lot of Western teachers were not willing to continue this lifestyle, and thus the teacher exodus continued. So, how much money can you make teaching in China? This might almost sound ridiculous and not believable, so before you slam me in the comments, reach out to anyone you know who is teaching in a major Chinese city, and they can vouch for what I'm about to say. You make doctor money. A qualified physician or successful investment banker in the United States or Canada is likely to pull home close to or just about 6 figures after tax. Teachers that have been teaching in China at their school for just a few years are likely pulling close to $7,000 or $8,000 a month after tax. If you are a new hire coming from home with a teaching qualification, it is likely one of those elite schools I previously described would scoop you up for close to $6,000 after tax. I'm going to save talking about the cost of living for a future video. However, I will say it's pretty common to meet teachers who travel, party, dress well, eat well, and still save close to $4,000 in their bank every month. This is massive because we aren't talking about people who stay at home and scrape every penny. We are talking living a decent middle-class lifestyle in comfortable accommodations and traveling when COVID permits to places they really desire to go. I personally have made bank living in Shanghai, and yes, sometimes the restrictions can be a bit much, but the benefits of my savings, my lifestyle, and financial freedom to travel still trump, no pun intended, any problems caused to me by the pandemic. You can now come to China if you are willing to put up with 10 days quarantine, and while ticket prices might be a bit on the insane side, if you are qualified and have the right attitude and experience, some principal somewhere is going to dip into their budget and scoop you up. I plan to do another video essay where I talk about my comfortable lifestyle where I still save. Imagine being reckless with money and still ending up with years worth of college tuition saved in your bank each month. I hope you liked this video. If you hit the like button and leave lots of great comments and opinions below, I'll continue to make video essays. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I will see you next time.